Tonight I'm talking about the first 3 books in the series, Michael Vey. Sorry, it's backwards. So that is The Prisoner of Cell 25, The Rise of the, I think it's Elgen, and then Battle of the Ampere. And so I had this book series recommended to me by my husband's friend, and they heard I liked books, and they're like, hey, this is a really great series, I'll have to read it. So I started reading it. It's a middle grade series. The main character is Michael Vey. He's a boy. This is by Richard Paul Evans. And it's basically him finding out that he has he knows he has electric powers, but finding out there's other children that are now teenagers that have electric powers with him. And they were all at the same hospital. And that's what happened is there was a new technology that was discovered. And they were trying it out and testing it. And these kids that were born that day that it was being tested got electric powers. Some of them didn't survive. So the company that made this machine has been searching for these kids that survived and finding out and testing like why they have these powers, what powers they have, and things like that. So that's basically the premise of the first book, especially, is they found the last 2 of the children that had electric powers, and they were trying to bring them in and collect them into this group and this family of electric children. So there is Dr. Hatch, and he's the antagonist of the series. And so we get to learn a lot about him, I feel like, more so in the 3rd book. He's kind of a father figure in the 1st book. In the 2nd book, we see more of his evil side and his ability to have power and control. And then in the 3rd book, he just kind of goes crazy. So, but it's a fun series so far. The setting in the 1st book is obviously in the United States. I guess not obviously, but it's in the United States. It's set in Idaho and California. So they find Michael Vey in Idaho, and then they transport him to California. And from there, in the 2nd book, we discover that the Elgen corporation has power plants that they've been setting up around the world that are powered kind of by electricity and these electric rats. And so in the 2nd book, Michael has to go and find his mother, who has been kidnapped by the corporation and is being held in Peru. So that's why they go to Peru. And actually, so far, the 2nd book has been my favorite book, just because of the character development within it, the action pack that it is in going into the small setting and the different surprises that happen. And so I make it through the 1st book because you get introduced to all the different characters, hear about the different powers of the electric children, and really get like a foundation for the series. But the 2nd one is where it's at. So I feel like at least if you can get through the 1st and 2nd one, then I think you might be hooked on the series. I think when I first started the series, I was like, oh, another young adult book. Why did I start another young adult book? But it's actually been like really fun. It's fast paced, so you can get through it pretty quickly if you're an older reader like I am. If you're a younger reader, oh my gosh, it'd be great for the younger readers, especially I feel like boys who are a lot harder to find books for. I mean, you have the Percy Jackson series and maybe like Diary of a Wimpy Kid and things like that, but I feel like there's a lot more book series and great series for girls. And so I like that there is this book series that is geared more towards the boys. So if you have a middle grade boy, this is a really good series to bring into there. This one, Lloyd Alexander, there's some really good ones out there. It's kind of like superheroes. Like, you think you're an everyday kid, but you've got these superpowers that kind of ignite you and cause you to have superpowers. Oh, but I should mention this. There are a few of Michael Vey's friends who kind of get wrapped into having to save his mom and go on this adventure. So you have first Austin, who is like high IQ, not well liked, talks a lot, knows a lot, and just seems like a kid who no one wants to be around because he's a know-it-all type of a kid. And kind of, they describe him as heavyweight, so he's a little bit overweight. He likes food. I mean, who doesn't like food? I like food. So Austin is the first friend that is brought into us. And then there's a bully who used to bully Michael Vey. Michael Vey goes to him and gets him to give him a ride to California. And they bring in him and his friend. So it is Jack and his friend Wade. So Jack and Wade come into the adventure. And, you know, at first you don't like Jack, you don't like Wade, they're not good kids. And of course, like, in the end, they surprise you and they do things that help out the cause. So, and they're normal people. But the superhero genre, like, it's so big and it's so good. And just especially for kids who feel like they don't have a lot of power, like, these books kind of like show that you can do hard things even as a young adult. So that's what I like about those. It's really good writing, so there's a lot of strengths to it. Some weaknesses, there's a lot of characters. And sometimes that's hard for readers, is to be involved with a book that you have to remember, oh, who's Ian and who is Taylor and who is Abigail, like, and what powers do they have or they don't have, and how do they relate to the plot and everything. So that, I think, that is one of the weaknesses of the books, is that there's a lot of characters and a lot to remember. So if you can quiz your kids and read it with them, that's one way to do it. Or otherwise, it's just like, oh yeah, it's just another electric person and I'll figure out what they do when they show their power again. Like, so it's really up to the reader. But I think that's one of the hard parts of the book series in general, is how many characters there are. I think a part of this last book, the third book that I read, the Battle of the Ampere. So the Ampere is a ship, and it is the main kind of headquarters of this Elgen company and Elgen company. Need to figure out how you pronounce that. And it's offshore, so that no one nation can kind of prosecute them or call them into loss for maybe some of the things that they're breaking. And so the Electro Clan, or the group that Michael Vey sets up, are going to go in and destroy the Ampere ship. But a lot of it, it's 300 pages. So, like, basically page 1 to 250 is their journey to try and get to the ship. Like, there's really, like, not a lot going on. There's things that happen. They're happening, but there's not like a lot that goes on. And then, like, the ending part, super fast. So I think that's one of the hard parts about the third book that I had, is it just felt like there was too much buildup. I was waiting for this to happen. Trying to remember all of the things that I wanted to say about the book series. I think it's going great. They've introduced some new thing that they have to do to help break up the Elgen company, and so there's more books to come. So I think overall, I rate this series as like a 4 out of a 5 so far. Each book, like standalone, can be a 4 out of 5. I might rate book 2 as a 5 out of 5 just because of how much I enjoyed it. Like, it had a really good twist and everything in it, so I really enjoyed that one the most. But yeah, I would recommend the book to especially like I said, young male readers that are into superheroes and superpowers and overcoming obstacles. So that would be kind of like the main people that I would recommend it to. So even though I got recommended the book from people, it's just they knew that I liked to read mostly young readers, and so they're like, oh, well, you gotta read this story, you haven't read this one yet. But yeah, that is my thoughts overall of so far books 1 through 3 of the Michael Vey series by Richard Paul Evans. If you have any comments or questions, you can put them down in there and recommend other book series that you might want to include. I'll probably do another video when I've read another couple. Like, there's 9 books or so of this series, so I'll probably do more book reviews as I continue on. And happy reading everyone.